and welcome to this episode of Season 4 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn and often guests, as we have today, Janinah McKenzie, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late and much missed John Popham. And we will do a weather check. Sweyn, how has the weather been this week where you are?
Absolutely freezing. North winds. When it's not that, it's strong southwesterlies. Quite a lot of sunshine, so from the solar panels point of view, that's quite good. But it's been very cold.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Janinah, where are you and how's the weather been where you are?
I'm in Leamington Spa, which is in Warwickshire in the West Midlands. And yeah, today the sun's been in and out, in and out, in and out. So yeah, I'm not sure. I will be going to London in the next couple of hours, so I'm sure it might be a bit sunnier. It's always a bit sunnier down south. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
hopefully it'll be sunnier there.
Yeah, hopefully for you. And here in Birmingham, we've had sun, I've been out in t-shirts and stuff, but it definitely a bit chillier than to be expected. I did go for a swim in the Dust Hill Quarry in Tamworth on Saturday morning, happy to say, but the water was about 15 degrees, so it wasn't uncomfortable. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, nice to be out. And I got a walk before our show this morning. So Janinah, you're very welcome to the show today, and we're going to go straight into the interview with you. We know you have to leave the show before the end, so we're going to make the most of the time that you have with us. So I'll read out a bit of blurb that we have about you. You are the digital and strategic lead and a no-code enthusiast in the company JMK Co, which I believe you co-founded with a colleague. As a charity consultancy in February 2022. You created the company to support purpose-driven organizations and projects via no-code solutions, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that. Since then, you say you've been predominantly working on impact measurement and theory of change projects, as well as business system optimization with charities across the UK. Prior to setting up JMK Co, you freelanced for 6+ years while working in contract roles on behalf of a range of charities, including Cancer Research UK, the International Land Coalition, Lumos, the Leprosy Mission, and the Way Youth Zone, which is in Wolverhampton. According to the website, also, you love all things Notion, which we're keen to hear more about, reading and writing, which we both enjoy very much as well, and you dislike boring books, clutter, and lack of autonomy. So, welcome to the show. We're absolutely delighted that you could join us today. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got involved in tech.
Yeah, so obviously my name's Janinah, in case people are wondering how to pronounce it. It is a Polish name. I am not Polish. My mum added on "a" from the word Janine, and that's how I came to be named. But yeah, it is actually a Polish name. And in terms of technology, I think how did I get started? I think ever since I was a little girl, to be honest. So like I grew up in the 90s. I was born 1990. So I remember when we first got I remember actually the day that we got our first computer. So my uncle came, didn't have a computer, and I was year 4, so about 8.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was like, "Why do we need a computer?" And then yeah, me and my uncle between us managed to persuade my dad to get us a computer. And then I think after that, I've always loved gaming. So I used to like buy the PC magazines, get the demo games in there, like usually city builders like SimCity, Sims, Pharaoh. I just loved it. Tomb Raider, Sonic. So I'd always just be playing games on the computer. And if I wasn't doing that, I was reading and I was in the library with friends. If I wasn't doing that, I was writing. And if I wasn't doing that, I was outside climbing trees, playing Tracker and all sorts of fun games. So I think I've just always liked technology. And I remember I used to like record. I used to look in the magazine, see what films were on, get a blank video, and then record it in like the HVC so I could watch the films later, put a sticky note onto the film. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it all started, but I've just always had a massive love for technology. I think it developed as I got older and games got a lot more complicated. And then I had to start tinkering about in terms of graphics and settings and RAM, and then taking the computer to the computer shop to like, can you upgrade our video card, and bartering with my dad, like if I get this grade, can we get this video card, etc., etc.
Nice.
Or if I do this grade, can I get that Sims expansion pack or whatever game it is I wanted?
Wow.
So yeah, I've just always loved tinkering with technology, and nowadays it's more a case of no-code tools such as Notion, which I discovered back in 2020. AI, obviously, been experimenting with that. I will be running an AI webinar with a friend on Wednesday as well, for charities. So yeah, I just love tinkering with technology and using it as a way to enjoy life more, but also to help in terms of productivity.
So if you don't mind me asking, age 8, then what year was that? Because the internet was starting around the 1990s. So what age would you have been at age 8? What year would you have been at age 8?
So I was born 1990. Because I'm 33 at the moment. So my birthday's the end of the year. I'll be 34 in November. So I think it was about year 4 is when I remember having the computer with the internet. And then it was AOL, which obviously everyone had. And then there was the dial-up, and, you know, I'd be wanting to be on the internet. And then my parents would like, get off the internet. We can't get on the phone.
Yeah.
And then you hear that
Yes.
horrible screeching sound.
Yeah. Did
But
you have
now I hear
siblings
it.
to share with, or were you?
No, I was quite
Okay.
lucky. I have got a sister. I actually have got 2 younger sisters and an older brother and an older sister who are half siblings. But yeah, I do share the same dad and mom with my 2 younger sisters, but there's 7 years between me and the one below me, and then 13 years between me and the one below her.
So there's plenty of
So
space
the
for you to
7-year-old,
explore. Yeah.
yeah, because there was 7 years between us, she was only 2 or 3 when the internet was around. She
No
didn't.
competition.
Yeah, and even now she's not very technically. I keep offering to build a Notion pages. She won't have it. You know, the other youngest sister, she's a convert. She's great. She loves Notion as much as I do. But yeah, so there was no competition, fortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Sweyn is now showing us the Notion page. Which I look forward to hearing more about. I just want to catch up a bit more on your earlier career, because I know you've worked with several charities, and you know, your kind of commitment to, although you work for a company, you are committed to a kind of a non-profit, digital and non-profit.
Yeah.
And did you, like, what did you study at school? What brought you into this line of work?
I think from at school, I insisted I wanted to be a lawyer. And so I studied law at university for a year, hated it, and dropped out. And then I panicked, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life now. I'm not at uni. Was usually at uni still, visiting friends and staying in their rooms and on campus. And then I got lucky in that I started to do a lot of promo work. So like exhibitions at the NEC, like the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, which is obviously, I'm from Wolverhampton, so that's near to me. So I did a lot of experiential on the stalls, like helping businesses that were at the exhibitions and also doing the ticketing for the exhibitions. So I did a lot of that. And also, I also worked in House of Fraser in Birmingham and also Selfridges in Birmingham as well. And I was doing that, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. So I was doing these jobs knowing that I didn't want to do them forever, but I just wasn't sure on what. And then I went off to Mexico for like a summer and volunteered there with some young people, which I really enjoyed, and that was nice. I should say actually before that, I did have a 0-hour contract at Catch 22, aka Base 25, which is a young person's charity. And that was my first stint, I think, in the charity world, helping some of the young people that came through that came to that centre. So yeah, and then after that I did Selfridges, House of Fraser, etc. And then off I went to Mexico thinking that I'd be on a mountain somewhere, inspiration would strike and I'd know what to do for the rest of my life. That didn't happen. So I came back to England disheartened that I'd had a whale of a time in Mexico, but I still didn't know what to do. And then I just ordered the Guardian A to Z careers book, flipped through it, picked a few things that sounded good. Marketing was one of them because it's analytical and creative. And so I decided I'd become a marketer. And I got quite fortunate that not long after that decision, I went to a networking event, which was my very, very first networking event at the ripe old age of 23 or 24, can't remember which. That I didn't want to go to actually because my laptop broke that day. I was doing an internship and my laptop broke during the internship, my very first day as an intern, and I was irritated about it. And so I called my dad in Birmingham, like, I'm not going to the networking event anymore. I'm really angry. My laptop's broke. It was a gaming laptop, so I literally needed that to do everything on. And then my dad was like, no, just go. You're already there. And I did. And I got really lucky that I met a really nice guy who said, I don't like the idea of interns being unpaid, so I'm going to get you a job at my company, which he did. as a marketing exec for a furniture brand. And so I did that. And then unfortunately, I got made redundant along with a lot of other people. It was a small business. And so I was able to get another job working for a watch company in Birmingham. And then unfortunately, I got made redundant from that. 3 months later, they decided to replace me with 2 interns who were paid, but not a lot. And so that's when I decided to work for myself. And that came off the back of, at that watch company, there was a really, really lovely receptionist whose name I forgot. She had a party props business on the side. And so she was constantly coming in on a Monday, having gone to all these amazing parties and getting paid to decorate the place. And she just sounded like she was having a fabulous time. And she kept saying, like, why don't you run a business? And I was like, I can't, I don't know in what. At the time, I was studying my marketing diploma, level 6 from the Child Institute of Marketing. So that day when they made me redundant on the Friday, like, don't bother coming back on the Monday, I went down to reception and literally said to her, I think I'm going to sign up to the Prince's Just Enterprise program like you did, and take it from there, which is exactly what I did. So I just spent the last several weeks, not the last, but about 24 to 28, 29, I was just a marketing consultant, and I did a lot of project management roles as well. So like projects for websites, projects for marketing campaigns, etc., etc. I worked for an apprenticeship company as well as marketing manager, and I'd always do a bit of freelance marketing on the side for local businesses in the Midlands, mainly Wolverhampton. And then I got quite fortunate that I was able to get a job working as Cancer Research UK's marketing manager for all of their East and West Midlands Race for Life events.
Yeah.
I think it was 2019. And so I did that, which was really enjoyable. And then lockdown happened. And obviously Race for Life, the woman came back off maternity, Race for Life was no longer around for that time. And so I just decided to move back home. And I'd broken up with my partner just before lockdown. So I was like, I'm moving back home from Birmingham to Wolverhampton. And I just didn't really know what to do because I thought, well, it's lockdown, which is great, more time for games and reading, but I don't know what to do for a job when this all blows over because I don't want to do consultancy and marketing anymore. And so I just became a youth worker. So I was doing youth work in Wolverhampton at the Way Youth Zone, which I enjoyed. I specifically was helping young people. It did start off with employability, so CVs and cover letters. However, because of lockdown, it then shifted to helping them with their mental health, because at that time I was also doing a coaching diploma, level 5 from Warwick University. So I had to use my coaching skills to try and coach some of these young people through COVID, which was great. And it was about then I came across Notion and No Code, and purely because I just got fed up of using Microsoft. I love Linux as well. So I got a bit fed up of using Google Docs and Microsoft, so moved to Notion, fell in love with it, but thought I daren't start using this properly because I'll just spend all my time fiddling about with Notion instead of actually doing assignments.
I hope I haven't looked too rudely inattentive during the time, but I have actually signed myself up to Notion while you've been speaking. So I've invited Pauline and I've invited Daniel and Freya as well. So we'll see what happens.
If you need any help building a page, give me a shout.
I'm definitely keen because Ellie's very keen on it, Ellie Hale, and I think Bobby Robson also likes it very much. So
yeah,
shout out for Bobby's new baby, by the way. Bobby Robson had a baby 3 weeks ago. Yay!
Congratulations!
So, congratulations. So go on, Janinah. Discovered Notion.
Discovered Notion, and I just thought I'm going to start using, once this assignment's done, I'm going to start implementing this system. But I got quite fortunate that I also discovered a couple of reading apps called it was called Scribed, it's now called Everand, like EVERAND, and also another one called Perlego, PERLEGO. So I was using those two apps to get all my coaching books. And then I was getting all the snippets from them and uploading them into Notion databases. And I just kind of made some little system. So every question, I knew I was using Notion to like plan and draft these essays with the exact quotes and references and imagery. And it was pretty cool. And then fortunately, I was able to get a first in that class. I don't know if anyone else did, but I genuinely think that's the first time in my life I've ever got such a high grade. Well, I've got A stars at uni, school, but and I think it's because of the fact that I had that Notion system, so I was just able to pull everything together so fast.
I think
and so then I shared it
you're
with
very
my friends
modest,
as well.
Janinah, but carry on.
And I shared it with my friends as well, built them some Notion pages, and it was great. And then and then I moved over to Linux as well, which I'd always wanted to do. But the final kicker for me was I was doing a Windows update, and it honestly took 4 hours to do. I actually fell asleep during the update, woke up, and it was still
Yeah,
updating.
been there.
So then I just thought, no. So Notion and Linux have been my go-tos ever since 2020 now. Um, and so, yeah, and then I've heard about business analysts as well. So a business analyst is obviously someone that helps organizations with service design, processes, process mapping, improving things. And I thought, oh, this would be a cool thing to do. So I got a job at my local council in Warwickshire as a business analyst, still in Wolverhampton at the time. And yeah, I helped with service redesign of their county highway system. I helped them implement a telephony project, so a telephone system, and that was worth a decent amount of money as well. And so it was great, but I did miss working for charities. So at the end of my 12-month contract, when they said, "Oh, do you want to stay on?" I was like, "Actually, no, I'd quite like to go back to charities who are a bit more nimble and a bit more agile in terms of being able to implement some of the recommendations and solutions I suggest." And so that's what I've been doing since Feb 2022. So obviously building Notion pages, helping with CRMs and process improvements, the reporting process. And I've also done a decent amount of evaluation reports as well and impact measurements, so theory of changes, indicator mapping spreadsheets, outcome framework spreadsheets, etc. So yeah,
Wow.
and now here we are. And now I'm
Yeah.
experimenting with AI, which is great. And about to offer some AI packages with a friend of mine, another digital consultant. So yeah, it's
I
been
saw that.
fun.
Yeah, when I was looking, because we talk about events on this show as well. We kind of
Mm.
flag up upcoming events, and I saw your one coming up. We don't tend to flag up events for which people have to pay because we're trying to have a very low barrier to entry. And I know you're charging for this one. I'm sure it's extremely worth while. And if anybody does want to follow up on that, if you follow Janinah on LinkedIn, you'll see more information about the courses that she's talking about, the training she's talking about. So, so who would you say else in the ecosystem have you connected with, and what kind of networks are you part of now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Bobby, obviously. So before she went on maternity, I was helping her, and also Sonna. I think her surname's Mahatni, or Mahatni, who both of those I met through the Power to Change program. So powering up, Power to Change, an organisation, have a program called Powering Up, which is a service that allows community-based, community interest companies to have access to some grants or funds in order to do projects. And I met Bobby and Sonna through that for a project I did last winter. I built several apps via Microsoft Power Apps for a local food bank charity. So I met Sonna and Bobby through that. And I've worked a little bit with them since on something else that Sonna's working on. So yeah, and also the lady I'm doing that webinar with on Wednesday, Chloe. So her name's Chloe Parker, obviously of Core Insights. And yeah, I remember when I first went freelance a couple of years ago, she was one of the first people I spoke to. And yeah, I remember we got on very well. And then didn't really speak as much. She went off on maternity. She's recently came back from maternity. And so yeah, we've bid for a few projects together. Fortunately didn't get them, but still. And then we decided to run an AI webinar and then start offering up some AI training and packages to people, well, to charities, obviously. And so, yeah, I've spoken to Chloe a lot as well. She's also been very good in terms of helping with how to go about doing things such as audits or the types of templates and spreadsheets you can use. And because she's been doing this, I think at least 6 or 7 years now, maybe even more. So, yeah, she's also been really, really helpful. I was on the Catalyst. No, yeah, Catalyst, Cast. I always get them confused. Catalyst. I was a part of a Catalyst working group briefly, for a time, which is when I worked for Agencies for Good as part of their working group. And I'm no longer doing that anymore. But yeah, so I obviously spoke to Ellie quite a bit, Noam as well, quite a bit from Side Labs, which obviously is no longer. So yeah, I think over the years I've touched base with a good amount of people
Yeah.
in my time. And I think the networks that have helped me have been the Agencies for Good, which obviously Ellie, Noam, Gemma from Hackter as well, and James I've forgotten his name, from William Joseph, James Pete
Oh yeah,
Gatsby.
yeah. Yeah,
I've
I know
forgotten
what you
which
mean.
order.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
James, if
yeah.
you're watching. As well, he's a lovely, lovely man.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think I'm also in a group called Freelancers Get SHIIT Done, and that's been really helpful in
Yeah.
terms of meeting other freelancers in the space. So yeah,
So you're well
I've been
networked up
very
and down the
fortunate.
country. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we
you've seen me at several networking events.
mm,
If there's
I've
food or lessons to be learned, I'm there. Or a good view, maybe.
I think it's more
Very
about
good.
contributing, Janinah. You know, you're endlessly helpful
Uh,
in all the things that, we've met at. I'm trying to remember when we first met. It was in Birmingham or something, and we were talking about
Yeah,
going to a co-working space. Um,
yeah. I think
and
it was
we
the Digital Awards.
yeah,
I
yes.
don't remember the Birmingham Innovation Awards. Birmingham, it was a
Yes,
Birmingham
that's
award of
right.
some
That's right.
sort, I
Yes,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. With
in the
with
Millennium Point,
Fallon. Yeah, yeah.
maybe.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
One of there was that male heavy yes,
yeah,
presentation group. Yeah, as often happens unfortunately in tech,
yeah,
but I think you're contributing to a more diverse um look of the systems anyway.
okay.
So I know you've worked for other charities as well as the one you've mentioned. I mean, what's your sense of how charities are doing now in the digital space and what they need to be doing?
Yeah, I think charities, obviously this is going to be biased. The charities I've worked with are doing well, and the fact that they've obviously came to me and asked for digital help in the first place is usually a good sign.
Mm,
Um, and I think a lot of charities are aware that they do need to be doing more in terms of digital. But I think obviously the problem that a lot of charities do have is they're so limited on time. And I think the only reason I'm so well versed in digital is because I love it so much. Like I was just like, I don't want to use Microsoft Word anymore or Google. What else is there? And there was Notion. Or, I'm a bit like, oh, I do think I could optimize my proposal submission process. What can I use? Oh, there's some AI, ChatGPT prompts. So for me, I just love getting involved with digital and technology and using it to optimize my life.
mm,
But I get for a lot of people that's not their passion.
mm.
And for some people as well, it's quite a scary thing. So,
Yeah.
using a new tool, you don't know how much it will cost, you don't know if it will work, you don't know where your data is stored by them, you don't know what will happen if you stop paying the subscription. Do you still have access to your content? If it's a live link, do you lose the link? So I
All
totally
very good
understand.
questions. Swain is currently sharing on screen the information about the AI Live
Yeah,
charity
thank you.
webinar that you're going to be hosting, which speaks to that fear, that people have. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of guide people, as well as doing seminars like that? How do you guide people through the fear to the promised land, or whatever the
I
hopefully
think
beneficial end?
I think first of all, I try to remind people that you do have a problem. As salesy and horrible as that sounds, I think sometimes people forget, they don't realize. So they're like, oh, can you help me? I'm like, okay. And then, 2 months later, I'll be like, do you still want the help? They're like, oh, no, we're still struggling, but we'll be okay. And I think sometimes people forget there is another way. So reminding
Mm,
them of that, like,
mm,
this could be better for you.
yeah.
And so why not use it? And also, I think listening to them and what it is they need. I know whenever I help out, any time I help anyone, it doesn't even have to be in the business sense, just even a neighbor or a friend or
Mm,
whatever. I think I always try to make sure that whatever solution it is best for them. So,
mm.
for example, my partner doesn't like Notion. He hates Notion, funnily enough, and refuses to use it. So I know. But I think for him, for example, writing on a whiteboard is great. So if I was to offer him a solution, it would be, why don't you have he's now got a tablet whiteboard looking thing. It's like a whiteboard with a tablet cover on it. So, that's a great solution for the likes of
Mm,
him because it keeps the scribbles out of my way because we can just
mm,
put the cover over it, but then he doesn't have to deal with a massive Notion system. So I think it's always about trying to make sure what's appropriate for them. So, to be more specific, a charity that I did some pro bono work for, they were struggling with their CRM. It's baked
mm,
into their website, and their website isn't very the website's good, but the CRM behind it isn't effective. So they're using Google spreadsheets to collect information. So, rather than come at them with all the myriad of CRMs there are in the market, I was very specific in that I think they could be better with Airtable, which is Google
yeah.
Sheets on steroids, because they're familiar with
Yeah,
Google Sheets.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or I think I might have recommended, I've completely forgotten, was it Lamplight? No, I recommended another another CRM. This was a few weeks ago. I don't remember now, but that was specifically because of the fact it had a good volunteer management function and a good membership function, which I thought would be good for them because they do a lot of volunteer work and they have a lot of volunteers. So I think it's about being specific. And I love Notion, but I know some people don't, which is great. Maybe Asana's better for them, or Basecamp, or Trello, or it's just about making sure that whatever tool or whiteboard, whatever tool it is that people use, they're comfortable with it. And I always stress that it's more about the system and the process. I've had people say, oh, I tried Notion and it didn't work. And I'd be like, oh, did you try anything else? I'm like, yeah, I tried Basecamp and I tried this and I tried that. And usually I'm like, I don't think it's the tool, it's the system. You know, if Notion went down, I would be able to replicate the system I have for life and business on another tool. So I always think it's more about the systems and the way you do things rather than the tool you use to do it.
So do you find that with all these different platforms that there are, or systems that there are, do you find it straightforward or frustrating or anything in particular that so many people seem to use so many different ones? And if you're active in a number of different spaces and each of those spaces is using a different tool, is there any answer to that, or do we just have to put up with it?
I think I'm quite fortunate that most of the organizations I work with, it's literally Google Drive or Microsoft, and then it will be me that might introduce them to something new, or Airtable, and they're not using a whole range of no-code tools. But as for the space in general, I do think it's good that there's so many. I personally like Notion because I can use it for project management, and I can use it as a CRM, and I can use it as a wiki space, and I can use it as a calendar, and I can use it to create documents and use the AI functionality within it. But I totally understand that hesitance of having everything on one tool, like on the Notion Reddit. Several times I've seen people be like, if Notion goes, what are you going to do? It's got everything of yours on there.
It's not so much having all your eggs in one basket as having so many baskets that you have to keep up because you're working with this partner and that partner and the next partner, and they're all working on different levels. I'm looking for answers to that. I don't think there is one. I don't think there's one at all.
For those listeners who are not familiar with Reddit, it's a forum, I suppose, where there's lots of different topics, and you can find lots of different conversations, but everything you want to know about anything really in the world. And obviously Notion Reddit is one of those. What do they call them?
Notion, I think. /Notion. Yeah.
Subreddits.
Subreddit. Yeah.
One other question about Notion. I have signed up as we've been speaking. I've gone for the free plan. Why would I go for the paid plan? What would be the advantages for that?
Good question.
I obviously started using it in 2020, and I think so I don't know how the tiers have changed. What I do know is that there's usually file limits, and because I was plugging all my assignment, like screenshot after screenshot, book after book, I quite quickly, I think within the first day, was like, oh, I need to go on the paid plan. I think at the time was about £5, which to me was okay. But I think it's the file storage
or £8.99. I think
that's free.
A
month.
It's not outrageous.
Sweyn?
That's a month, yes.
Yeah.
And then you do have AI as well. And I'm currently, I'm writing the story. I've been writing this story for a while. And so I think I pay a little bit extra for that AI functionality as well.
Can you collaborate within Notion with other Notion users?
Yeah. So you can collaborate with anyone who's not on Notion. So for example, for that AI training webinar, just before this call, I was on a call with Chloe, the co-host, and she was like, she's like, have you got, I'm sure you do, Janinah. She's like, do you have a Notion page for this webinar? I was like, yep, I've got it saved in my calendar as its own event, naturally. And because I use Notion Calendar. Not the app, the calendar within Notion. Notion has a separate calendar app. And so I literally just shared the page with her. I made it a public page that anyone can access, and then she's just pasted in the guest list to see, so I can see the number of guests that we have and if I know any of them. And that's quite an easy thing to do. They have really improved their accessibility in recent years. Before it was quite clunky to try and share things with people, whereas now I've just shared that page and I've turned off live indexing, so it can't be picked up by Google crawlers and bots. It's literally a page that you will only see if I share that link with you. So it's a great collaboration tool, and I've seen other organizations use it to leave comments as well when I've done projects and we've been using Notion. It's a case of leaving comments on certain packs, just like you can with Google Docs, really, and Microsoft.
The other place where we've networked and met up with each other is at unconferences. We saw each other at UK Charity Camp last year, and I know the other one, the next one is being scheduled now. Harry Howell's been advertising it, and also we met more recently at an NS camp. What would you say about unconferences that how would you encourage other people to attend them, and what have you got from them yourself?
Yeah, unconferences are good. As I said, from ever since I got my very first job out of a networking event, I've always been an advocate for them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I ever get that lucky from every other event I've gone to, but even just talking to someone, you just don't know. All it takes is one golden nugget of knowledge, and you just don't realize how much that could impact someone, how useful it could be. So I think whether it's an unconference or a normal conference, if there's other people there and it's a topic that you're interested about, then for sure you should probably go. That's, as I said, that's the main reason I go to events. It's just usually because I want to attend some of the seminars and talks that are on, or as I said, it's good food or a good view. But I can imagine that for those who are a bit intimidated by networking events or don't see the benefits from them, that's when the unconference style can be really good. And that's what I liked about your unconference a couple of months ago, Pauline, and also Harry's from the On Tribe back in November, is the fact it's got such a loose structure to it. So, you can rock up in a hoodie, which is usually my outfit of choice, and just do what you want to do in terms of, I don't want to go to that event, or my favourite, what you advocated for, Pauline, and also what Harry advocated for back in November. If for whatever reason you're in a session and you don't enjoy it, just go, just leave. And
what used to be called
useful.
Used to be called the rule of 2 feet, but it's been kind
that's
of
what they
renamed
said.
because not everyone has 2 feet, do they?
Or can walk,
But the whole question of you contribute where you are, and where you are is where you're contributing. It's an equal and opposite thing. And I think that of all the features of an unconference, for me, that is the most powerful of all.
Same. It's kind of like, as I said on my website, I hate bad books, and I don't understand I'm sorry if I'm about to offend anyone, but I don't understand why people push through with bad books. And I'm in a book club that I've been in since lockdown, so 4 years now. We meet every other week, and it's only now, in 4 years of me knowing one of the women from it, that she will not read a bad book anymore. In the past, when we've all been like, we're not reading that book anymore, we don't like it, she would still persevere. And I think it's the same with the conference, like with anything in life. If it doesn't, take what you need and then leave the rest. Take what resonates, and then leave the rest.
The whole unconference style, well, the fable is that it started as what were called bar camps that officially run conferences with actual programs. And what people found was that they were having informal sessions in the bar instead of going to the formal conference sessions. So eventually somebody realized that you could organize a bar camp without there being a conference for it to be in. And that's how the unconference movement got going. At least that's the fable. I'm not sure how historically accurate that is, but I like the story anyway.
Yeah.
James Cattell, who some of us know, is writing a book about unconferences actually. So
is he?
We'll know more about that.
Oh wow!
Later, yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
I'm talking to him this afternoon, so
I'm going to pre-order that one.
Actually, we might invite him on the show. He'd be a good guest to have.
I'm going to pre-order that one at Stromness Books and Prints tomorrow.
Well, that might be a bit in advance, but I'll let you know more details when I have them. Sweyn and I, Janinah, are also working together on Open Data Camp, which is coming up in July in Manchester for the first weekend in July. Yeah.
I think Niche has promoted it. I've seen them promote it.
It's currently showing us sold out, but there will be more tickets released on the 6th of July.
Okay, that's good to know.
I don't know what the view's like. The food should be good though.
Must be before the 6th of July, Sweyn. That's the Saturday of the event.
Oh, in that case,
sooner than that.
I would just okay. I'll put information in the description of the show anyway. Yeah, that must be a misprint.
Janinah, I was going to ask you something. Oh yes, so NNS camp was at the end of April, which with the unconference I organised for neighbourhood network schemes in Birmingham. Their first ever. For most of them at a non-conference, the first ever time. So it was great to have them all together from all across Birmingham, a couple of people from each of the neighbourhood networks and some of our council colleagues and yourself and a couple of other providers, shall we say, because that's what you were there as. And I found, I must say, your and Chris's from DigiCake openness and willingness to contribute to the conversations. Very humbling, because you could have been making money on that day, but you were there sort of networking with people who aren't so familiar with technology, very generously. What did you think you got from it? What was the benefit for you, can I ask, of you being there?
To be honest, it was just a nice place. It was a great day. It's Birmingham. I discovered a nice little local cafe that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise for when I'm next in Birmingham. But having said that, funnily enough, I actually did meet up with Chris and also Hannah from Erdington NNS at an Erdington YMCA cafe last week Thursday.
Brilliant.
So based off of your event, the three of us have decided to go away and between the three of us try and come up with a resource that we can put together for local Birmingham organisations, like a toolkit of sorts to help them better measure their impact. So we had a great time. Obviously, we discussed fantasy books, games, and games that we all should have finished years ago but haven't. So between the three of us, we had a great conversation, and then I went on holiday, Hannah was on holiday. But yeah, we were then able to meet up last week. And again, we were in that cafe for a good 3 hours, just talking about our collective experiences in the sector and how we all use digital. So Hannah was really spreadsheety, Chris was quite spreadsheety. I'm probably a bit more on the qualitative data side and storytelling and no code. But yeah, so I got a lot out of it because I've met 2 people that I'm now collaborating with on a project that I think can really help some of the Birmingham organisations that are in the sector. So it was great. And I'm also going to be helping someone else who was there with some Notion pages, Nadia.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully if I can help them, with some Notion system to help them streamline their processes better, even better. So I got a lot out of that day. And I had a great shop round the Bullring as well for holiday clothes. But it was a productive day. It was a very good day.
That's great to hear. And like other conferences do have providers. Obviously, we have sponsors, including for Open Data Camp in Manchester, and previous Open Data Camps, and they attend sessions and they contribute as well. So it's not unusual. I just was curious to know, for this kind of the first time NNS had a camp of their own. That's something good that I hadn't known about came out of it. So I'm delighted to hear that, and I know my council colleagues will also be delighted, because they're always looking for stories of impact, and this is definitely an impactful story that they'll hear about. So we're coming to the I know you have to leave us before the show ends, Janinah, so we'll just want to make the most of your time. If people want to contact you after the show, we will have your details on the YouTube page. What else would you like people to know about what you're working on? Because I know you've helped me in the past about Consultants for Good, told me about a session they were running. Is there anything else coming up that you would recommend other people to get involved in?
Do you mean me specifically, sorry, or do you just mean in the sector?
You and the world that you're familiar with.
I don't really think there is, to be fair. Obviously, doing that webinar, I'll be offering AI training packages. But even if somebody just has a question around how to better measure their impact, or any no-code tools, or anything digital, really, be more than happy to just have a chat with people. I think I just enjoy doing that. I think, if, as I said, I've been quite lucky that over the years, I don't even mean in the business sense, but even, as a young girl growing up, people have always been quite kind towards me. Not all the time. I have experienced bad incidences, but I just think it's really important that if you're in a position to help someone, then you should. Like, as I said, I love reading and tinkering with systems. So for me, that knowledge is already there, but I'm fully aware that others don't have access to that knowledge, or some people don't have the time. I'm quite fortunate, I don't have any children or minors or anything, so I have the time to read and learn if I want to. I'm fully aware not everyone has that opportunity because they have to work, or not everyone's even literate or has a computer because of digital exclusion. So if there is anybody that just wants to have a chat around anything digital, like how they can make their life a little bit easier, or what tool they could be using for project management, for example, or spreadsheets, then I'm always happy to just have a chat with people. So DM me on LinkedIn.
Very good, very generous of you.
And your LinkedIn profile details are already on the description for this program on YouTube.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, funny what you say about people not knowing what systems are out there, or not know, they're used to the systems that they have, and so they stick with them. Because I remember
I don't see what's wrong with WordPerfect 5.1 myself.
Don't say that, Sweyn. People will believe you. I remember talking to Matt Howard from Raising Digital some years ago, interviewing him for a project I was doing with Nissa Ramsey, and he was saying at the time that people stick to the kind of the sheet of paper on the wall that says, press this button or do that. It's something the manual, because they're familiar with it. They feel they know what it's about, and even though it might take longer and not be maybe as productive, how do you move people? My question is, how do you move people from that piece of paper on the wall to, working with a system that actually will probably be much more efficient and time saving for them?
I think it's remembering them that it is painful. Like, just because if you're walking on a broken leg, you can walk on it, but it's painful. And yeah, you'll get used to the pain, but it is still painful. So it's a case of, why are you putting yourself through unnecessary pain and hardship? Life's too short. If there's a system that can make things faster for you, then use the system. Like, life's too short. And then you can then use that time on much more impactful things. Like, it's the Pareto principle. What are you spending all of your time on, but it's not actually moving the needle that much? That would be the thing I would remind people of. You could spend all your time going through that checklist on the paper, or you could actually be delivering more work to the people that need you. That's what I would probably say.
It's taking the step, isn't it? It's taking the
first
step, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
getting two things I've achieved recently are terrifically minor, but have made a huge difference in my life. And that is, at last, I replaced the battery in my laptop so that it doesn't conk out every 25 minutes. And that's just been transformative,
I
really.
still need to do that.
And the other one is,
A year later.
between us, Jenny and I worked out how to share our Google calendars. I use Microsoft, she uses Google, but we finally worked out how to share them. And it's just so much less stressful trying to decide what to do if you can see each other's calendars. And so I mean, we're all, well, I certainly, most people are guilty of just, as you say, walking along on the broken leg for ages and ages and ages. And then you say to yourself, God, that wasn't much effort, was it? I mean, and it has made a huge difference.
Yeah, and it adds up. Those small things really do add up.
Sure does.
You can shave off how many hours of time over the course of a month by doing one thing.
Of stress and
it's gone.
Yeah. One last question for you, Janinah, if you don't mind. Have you worked with any smaller charities? You've mentioned some kind of big name charities.
Yeah.
What's the smallest charity income wise that you've worked with, do you think?
If I had to guess, I'd probably put it about 200K, maybe 100K. Most of the charities I do work with are smaller. So, I'm working with not small, but community interest companies as well, social enterprises. I do a lot of work with smaller charities. Even a charity I'm literally doing a proposal for at the moment, there is no full-time staff. It's literally just 7 trustees, and they've been running since the 70s. Not the same 7, but it was founded in the 70s. They were founded in the 70s, and then there's still just the 7 of them. They don't have any full-time staff, and I'm about to hopefully be doing a strategic evaluation review for them about how they can get a few more members and improve their operations, basically, and their strategies. But I work a lot with small charities, and I think sometimes those are the ones that need the most help, because they're the ones that don't have the time to step back. Like, why are we walking on a broken leg? Because they're literally racing along with the broken leg because there's only so many of them. They're so busy. They're the ones that I think sometimes can struggle the most. And also, to go back to your earlier question, Pauline, I can't remember what book it was, but in a book I read, somebody said that he went in to do an organizational review and he looked at their processes. And one of the processes was, on every quarterly report, I think it was quarterly, there'd be a red dot in the corner of each page. And the man asked everyone, why is this red dot on the corner of each page of all of these quarterly reports since the 90s? And no one could answer. And then it turns out that one of the women that used to work there, like back in the 80s in HR, used to put a red dot on the corner of each of these reports. I can't remember why. She had some sort of filing system as to why it needed to happen. But it really didn't need to happen anymore. And yet people would still insist on these red dots being on the corners of the report. And no one thought to question, well, why do we need these red dots? I think it was red, something along those lines. And so, I think, again, those smaller charities, they're so used to doing things the way that they might have been done before. And because they're smaller, they haven't had the chance to have, 100 new staff join over the time of them being established. So chances are they probably are doing things the way the founder did it back when they set up the charity like decades ago. And so those are the charities I think that sometimes need that step back. Let's just have a think. How can we improve what we're already doing? Or why do we do it like that is always a good question. Because I don't think, and I do this myself, sometimes I think, why am I doing it like that? And how could I do it better? Because it's clearly not working. I do a weekly review. So every week I like to look back, and I'm not good at doing my weekly reviews, funnily enough. So last week I thought, well, why am I not doing my weekly reviews? And I figured out because it seems cumbersome. So then I was like, oh, I'll get AI to summarize. I journal every day. So I was like, I'll get AI to summarize 7 days worth of journaling, which I did, but it still wasn't working. And then I realized I think I overcomplicated it. I just think I needed a simple checklist of just ask these questions each week. So I just think sometimes always just think why isn't this working, as opposed to just thinking it's not working, but hey ho.
Yeah. I always think it's good to ask somebody who's just joined the organization to question, why do you do things this way? Because they see things that you just take for granted. Janinah, I think you're going to have to leave us now. Bon voyage for your journey to London. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
We've learned
joining
a
us,
lot.
indeed.
It's been really, really good, and we hope you can
No,
join us
really
again
enjoyed
in the
it.
future.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me. And as I said,
pleasure.
anyone wants to chat anything, feel free to give me a shout.
Details
thank
in the
you.
YouTube description.
Thanks very much.
All
Thanks
right,
for
take
joining
care,
us,
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And so she goes.
Yes.
Well, it was great.
Excellent. Yeah, really good. Learned a lot there.
Yes.
I've known her for a few years now, Janinah, but you always learn something new when you interview people on the show, and it's there's lots to learn.
I love
there.
the analogy of walking along on a broken leg. I'm going to use that
Excellent.
one.
Yes, I think we might be using that one.
Except when Jenny's listening, because she did actually have a horrible broken leg once, and she might not appreciate it.
Okie dokie. So we will, having turned the show upside down, we'll go back to where we usually have. At the beginning of the show, we talk about some dates and events coming up. So do you want to lead off with the dates, Sweyn?
Sure. The first one is actually a date that's gone. It was the last day of May, and it is European Neighbours Day, and which I will just share in just a second. And it's been going 25 years, and I can't remember whether you or I found this one, but anyway, it's one that John Popham would definitely have liked, and it says, all over Europe, individualism, withdrawal into oneself, and loneliness are on the rise. Everywhere, social bonds are growing loose, and each resident is invited to make a simple gesture at the same time throughout Europe. Again, we've missed this date because the date was Friday the 31st of May, but anyway, so it's through this kind of so invite your neighbors to share a nice time for a buffet or a lunch or any other sort of get together, and the goal of this is to share experiences and good practice and give citizens the opportunity to interact with each other. I mean, many localities, I'm sure, will already do this sort of thing, but it's a simple principle. Neighbours Day is an event which occurs every year at the end of May, and any city or social housing organisation. Oh, you're editing the document.
I am.
Well done. Yes. I thought things were moving in front of my eyes.
Sorry.
So everyone's welcome to participate in Neighbours Day, and you can find information at the link that is in the description to this program. So that's Neighbours Day. Now we also have, of course, it being June, we are well into now the annual Pride Month, and this is the Pride Month 2024. And so it's the whole of June, a vibrant and inclusive celebration that honours the LGBTQ+ community, their history, achievements, and ongoing struggle for equality. And the annual event serves as a reminder of the importance of acceptance, diversity, and love. And it brings together individuals, organisations, and communities to advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and celebrate the progress made towards a more inclusive society. So Pride Month, as we say, is a month-long celebration, and it recognises the community and their contributions to society. And it's a time to acknowledge the challenges faced by the LGBTQ plus community and to stand in solidarity with their fight for equality, acceptance, and human rights. Pride Month is a joyful and colourful display of love, unity, and resilience, with events and activities that promote inclusivity, educate the public, and celebrate the diversity of sexual orientations and gender identities. And I noticed a comment somebody made the other day that I think it was probably on Facebook or Instagram that a lot of people will display the rainbow flag or some other symbol of pride, not mainly to show that they are willing to accept all the different orientations that there are and to be able to be allies to them. So it's for everyone. Pride is for everyone, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
And now then, the next one we have, and I have to check to see that I have everything in the right order here because I'm stitching things together. Yes, it's Loneliness Awareness Week, another one which I think John would have very much approved of. And it is created and hosted by the Marmalade Trust, which is a charity. And it runs from the 10th to the 16th of June. So that's today. We're at the beginning of Loneliness Awareness Week. And it gets people raising awareness of loneliness across the UK and beyond, and it gets people talking about it. So the week is dedicated to raising awareness of loneliness, and it's all about creating supportive communities by having open, honest conversations, because loneliness is a natural human emotion. We're hardwired to need social connections, but by talking about loneliness, we can support ourselves and others. And the campaign centers on the powerful message, which resonates with many. Previous years, they've trended on Twitter. They've reached 271.5 million people in 1 week with the campaign. It's amazing how you can count these things up. There we are. I'm sure it's a lot of people anyway. And each year we've seen tens of thousands of organisations, charities, and individuals get involved, including the Royal Family, the Prime Minister, the Mayor of London, NHS trusts, and all government departments. So it's held from the 10th to the 16th of June, and this year's theme is Random Acts of Connection. I can hear John Popham cheering about this. He'd be right on board for all this. And there's a whole pile of information about local events and other ways of marking this week on the website. So that's all the dates.
Great.
I have this week.
And we have a few events as well to bring to people's attention. And the first one, Janinah mentioned the AI event that she's running on Wednesday with a colleague, Chloe Parker. And that one's a paid one, but these other ones that we've picked up are for free. And on Wednesday, 20th of June, the African Caribbean Centre in Leicester is doing a digital skills support and awareness event. In fact, they're doing them every Wednesday afternoon. They started last week, Wednesday, June 5th, between 1 and 3 p.m. at the African Caribbean Centre. A chance to learn more about digital skills and how they can benefit you personally and professionally. So recommend that for people who are getting started and want to kind of skill up a little bit.
That's an in-person event in
Leicester.
Yes.
The next one is on Tuesday, the 18th of June, next week. This is an event called Next Gen Neighbourhoods, Imagining the Communities of the Future. And this one caught my eye because I think it's about design more than anything else. Anyway, it says that communities come in many forms, from isolated rural villages to sprawling urban metropolises or online global networks. With the thoughtful and creative use of interventions from mixed reality and immersive experiences to AI and avatars, virtual twins, and next-gen transportation, our future will include the connected and harmonious communities we all aspire to live in. And it's an event starting at 5 o'clock on the 18th of June, with senior creative at Squint Stroke Opera Eleanor Greenleaf exploring visions of the next-gen neighbourhood using the lens of some of the projects she has worked on, from designing digital media in the redevelopment of Battersea Power Station to spearheading the in-house R&D Apple Vision Pro project around mindful digital nature in the home. You're invited to explore and imagine the oncoming wave of innovation to elevate our communities, connect us, extend our environments, and empower our shared history. I just thought that was interesting. I think it's the kind of thing John's curiosity would have been piqued by. So yeah, I thought we'd mention
No,
that one.
that is a great one. And again, that's an in-person event in London.
Yeah. And finally, on Sunday, the 23rd of June, there's an event in Peterborough called Digital Horizons, Navigating the Digital Landscape Over 60s, a free course. And this is a 12-week course designed specifically for individuals over 60 who want to enhance their digital skills and feel more confident online. And again, this program, Dr. Tech Show, started as a way of getting people online or supporting people who are getting online for the first time. So I think John would have approved us bringing this to people's attention. They say that from social media to communication, they will cover a range of topics to help you navigate the digital landscape with ease in a friendly and supportive environment. The course is going to be split into 3 4-week blocks, and dates are on the poster, which we'll provide a link to on the YouTube page for this episode of the show. And the promises, or the kind of what they're offering, is what you learn is navigating the digital world, basic tablet or computer skills, how to use social media safely, video calling and messaging, accessing online entertainment, email and safe storage of files, and much more. So
That looks like it should have been a bulleted list, but it's all run together.
Yeah. And then they're suggesting why people should join is that they will have friendly, patient, expert instructors. Patient is always the top quality, I think, for people helping other people online. Hands-on, practical learning, meet new friends and share the journey, boost your confidence and independence, master new digital skills or build on existing skills, free lunch and free tablet. And that was the thing that really caught my eye. Obviously, terms and conditions apply, but for some people who don't already have a device, the prospect of doing a course and getting a free device then to practice on after you've finished sounds like a winner to me. So well done to the people in Peterborough for organising that, and I'm sure you'll get plenty of takers for that one.
Eventbrite has labelled it as a few tickets left, so it would be best to get one quickly. If you want to go to that. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think we have a few minutes left, Sweyn, to cover some of the stories that we've picked up as well more recently. The first one, it always seems to be ironic that a program that's about getting people online ever talks about saying let's provide other avenues of engagement as well. But actually, we've always recognized that not everybody is or wants to be online, and so we're encouraging people to be aware of this report from Age UK called Offline and Overlooked, talking about how public services are rapidly going digital. But the article says, if like 2.3 million older people in the UK, you aren't an internet user, it's becoming harder and in some cases impossible to access day-to-day necessities such as banking, making NHS appointments, or even just paying for car parking. And the article goes on to say plenty of people would just prefer to handle their finances, their bills, or their health matters in person or over the phone, and no one should feel forced to perform important tasks online if they don't feel comfortable about it. They're saying that it's discrimination if people are being forced to be online, and it poses real risks to people's health, well-being, finances, and ability to participate fully in our society. So Age UK is calling for a bulleted list of things. What they want is all public services, including the NHS, council services, and other nationally provided public services must offer and promote an affordable, easy to access offline way of reaching and using them. That's number one. Number two, the government must make sure local government receives enough funding to provide offline services.
That's key. That's absolutely key, because a lot of online services, both in the private sector and also in the public sector, have been introduced with an explicit cost-saving motivation. And if you are going to retrofit in-person services, although you should be able to do it more effectively, more efficiently if you're basically online, that should work better anyway. But it does cost money, and that money needs to be provided for the organizations that need to do this.
And the last 4 bullets are more funding and support provided to enable people who are not computer users but who would like to get online, because there aren't enough of those digital skills courses around. They're increasing, but there's still not enough for everybody. The 4th bullet point is the government should lead on the development of a long-term, fully funded national digital inclusion strategy. We've talked about this many times on the programme before. The last strategy was produced in 2014, so it's 10 years old, we need an up-to-date digital inclusion strategy, and we ideally to have that every year or every 2 years at the minimum, to keep up with developments in digital. Bullet point number 5, the government should change the law to require banks to maintain face-to-face services. Here. And finally, banks must accelerate the rollout of shared banking hubs to meet the high and continuing demand for face-to-face banking services. And I know in my own family that affects people in my family. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So some
And
great
there's a
points
petition
there.
to sign.
Ah, okay, good.
That's so the details at the link, which will be on the Facebook, not the Facebook page, the description of the YouTube meeting.
Excellent.
This thing,
And I think we're gonna maybe call it an end
Call
there
it a
for
day at that
today.
point. Yes, that's all good.
It's a good place to stop. There are other great stories. Obviously, we will hope to cover them in our next show next week. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. If you'd like to be a guest or have someone else who'd like to be a guest on the show, please let us know. Send us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us today, and hope you have a good week. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye.